Okay, welcome. We're glad you're here. I wanted to start with a quick overview of where we've been, just because United Way is going to be turning 85 next year. And so we have been in the Snohomish County community for a really long time. And what we have done and how we have done it has changed over the time. And it's had to. That's one of the powers of United Way, that we are a global system, but we're also intensely local, and we're listening to our local community, to our partners, to the residents, to our neighbors, and really saying, what do you need? And having some flexibility. If you're not aware, United Ways are each individual chapter. So while we pay dues and have some standards that we have to comply with to be United Way members, as Nicole pointed out, we have our own board of directors. We are our own 501c3 individual organization, and we have the ability to choose to do something different than what is being promoted at a national level, though there's also a lot of power in joining with other United Ways. And we'll talk a little bit more about that later, of some work that we're doing in partnership with some of our other neighboring United Ways. So United Way of Snohomish County was founded on November 8th of 1940 as the Everett Community Chest. Obviously, we are physically located in Everett, but we serve all of Snohomish County. Initially, the agency was focused on raising funds from the community and distributing them to agency partners, some of which we still support today. But that was the money that was raised went to a specific list. And once again, there wasn't at the time as much room to consider emerging needs. As the agency grew and began to focus on fundraising in the workplace, the campaign totals went from, first year was $41,000. And at the height, we were raising over $10 million a year, which was a strong portion of that was through the Boeing Corporation and the Employee Community Fund of Boeing Puget Sound. Early in the century, Tony referenced this. So I think about 2002, 2003, we were one of the first United Ways in the country to move towards this idea of bringing money in and giving it out, to community impact, of saying we're not just going to hand money over without expecting results, right? So looking at grants that the agencies had to say, here's how we're going to use the money, here's how we're going to be working on these identified community needs, and being able to say, here is what that means across the county. And so we received national recognition for moving from that allocating dollars to offering multi-year program grants. And I want to say that was really something that now, if anybody follows Boulay and Nonprofit AF, he talks about My God, which is multi-year general operating grant, right? Like general operating dollars, right? As like the most amazing support you can give. And United Way 20 years ago was already there and saying, yes, we're going to support your programs, and we're going to support them for multiple years, so you can count on it and you know that you have the money to really invest in the work. At the time, there were 3 areas of focus, which was education, financial stability, and community engagement. And you'll hear that while it may look differently, those are still very much the areas that we're focused on today. This during the early 2000s was kind of when we were the biggest. We moved into our building in 2007. We had additional initiatives that we were leading around early learning, developmental assets, individual development accounts, free tax preparation. Tony mentioned that one as well. Youth leadership, varsity letter, and volunteering. We helped do the advocacy. One of our vice president at the time and eventual president, Dennis Smith, partnered with Bill Bracken of the VOA, and they were kind of the leads across the state to bring 211 to the state. And United Ways continue to be involved in that space, even though our local 211 call center is out of VOA, Volunteers of America, Western Washington. At the time, we also served as the volunteer center of Snohomish County, which matched thousands of individuals and companies with volunteer opportunities at hundreds of local nonprofit organizations. And as part of our work as the volunteer center, we had a disaster response volunteering program set up that led us to be a key support for the Darrington and Arlington communities in the response of the 530 landslide that was 10 years ago. In 2016, this is an organization that likes to innovate, that likes to try something new, and likes to listen to community. And the organization took the innovative step of focusing and narrowing its community impact even further by creating and supporting 5 core collaboratives, which were place-based collective impact efforts that brought together different organizations that were all working on the same issue, and to align their work and fund them to work together. So those look like Making Life Work, Improving School Attendance, All Families Are Ready, and Connect Casino Road, the North Counties Community Collaborative, and Homeward House. So these organizations really were created of 5, 10, 15, 20 different organizations saying, how do we work together? And United Way was serving as the backbone. So funding it, yes, but also like coordinating meetings, finding software systems that would work across the groups, and holding the groups together to keep them moving. So that was 2016. We all know what happened in 2020, right? Unfortunately, the pandemic was a difficult time for our county and for United Way as an organization that was primarily fueled by workplace giving. And everybody had to be remote, and it was harder to come together to do the bake sales and chili cook-offs and pie in the face events that were not the highest part of workplace giving, but were often, the fun and connecting moments. And right before the pandemic, our last permanent CEO departed, and it's just with the pandemic, it's been difficult to hire and retain that permanent CEO. And there was a decision made by the board of directors at the time. We had made, once again, multi-year commitments to our core partners. And even though the money that was coming in was less, they said, we are going to take money out of our reserves to make sure that those organizations that are serving the community at a time when there is more need than ever have what they need to continue. So I've been with the organization almost a year and a half, and we've really been focusing on right-sizing the agency and saying, what does our community need from us now? And from an operations standpoint, that looks like right-sizing our staffing. We have listed our building for sale. We are hopeful that we will have an offer shortly. But if you know a company or an organization that's looking for a new home, please share the information with them. We are simplifying our back office procedures and switching to lower cost software. We're moving back into compliance. We recently received notification that we are fully in compliance with United Way worldwide standards. And we've been working to re-engage past donors and corporate supporters, right? When you have the level of attrition or turnover that we had for a couple of years there, your relationships really suffer. And so being able to get back in the community and re-engage those relationships and say, you matter, our work together matters, how do we go forward? So we're really appreciative that you took time this morning to be with us and hear about it and ask the questions, because you are part of our community and we want to hear from you. So one of the hardest changes over the last year was we ended our partnership with the core collaboratives. We recognize that our United Way is no longer in the position to be able to support the core on the financial or administrative level that was originally promised. We completed the existing contracts, so we didn't terminate the contracts early. We just did not renew them when they came up for renewal in December. And we have been in conversation with those core partners. We work to transition some physical items as well as software data and support in any way that we could. So many of them still exist. They're still doing amazing work, and we'd be happy to connect you with the folks who are leading that. It's just that our United Way can no longer be that backbone organization. We just don't have the size or the funding to work in that very complex manner at this time. So that's where we've been. Let's talk about where we're going. I think that's a more exciting story, and it's something that I feel really good about. So who we are today, our mission is to improve lives for families in Snohomish County by bringing people, resources, and strategy together. And our vision remains that families in Snohomish County live to their fullest potential for generations to come, regardless of race, place, and ability. Seeing families thrive, as we said, that's been a focus and a mission of our work for at least 20 years, if not all 80. And one of the tools that we're using around this is being put out by United Way Worldwide is called ALICE. And if you haven't heard of ALICE, it's an acronym that stands for Asset Limited, Income Constrained Employed. It's a fancy way of saying people who are earning too much, they're earning over the federal poverty limit, but they're not earning enough to pay their bills, to be able to afford what they need to focus on thriving without stress and worry and having to make hard trade-offs. The number of Snohomish County households who are in that range of ALICE, living paycheck to paycheck, it's 35% of households in Snohomish County that are between that ALICE threshold and also including the poverty level. So, a full third of our neighbors are having to make hard decisions and struggling to afford the necessities of life. We're not talking the fancy extras, but just things like a good, safe, reliable housing, transportation, food, and what they need for their kids to go to school and succeed. The income needed for a family of four in Washington state with an infant and a preschooler to cover the cost of basics is $95,244. When you hear that, it makes sense that so many of us, because that's a lot. That's a lot. And Washington, especially in the greater Puget Sound region, it has become very expensive to live lately. I know that we are homeowners in Briar, which I love. And there are new houses on our street that are going for over $1 million, and they are not fancy houses. They are, the 1,200, 1,400 square feet, and things that might have been starter homes back in the day. And I don't know who, I can't afford that. I don't know who can. And so really saying, how do we support these families so that they can focus on growing and contributing and doing their best instead of on where that next paycheck is coming from, where that next meal is coming from. And especially, once again, we have had a focus through CORE, we really narrowed our focus to saying families with children and that seeing those children have a strong start so that they can succeed later in life. And the number of children living in financial insecure households. So in poverty, about 12% of Washington state children are living at or below the poverty level. And if you add in the ALICE level, we're talking about 700,000 children. And those groups have especially high concentrations of children who are Native Hawaiian Pacific Islander, Black, and Indigenous households. And so really saying that there are some groups in specific who need additional support. So one of the things we've been looking at is we've talked about a couple different business models. So we've been working on saying, well, what does our business model look like now? We're a smaller organization. There are fewer companies running workplace campaigns. And we are still here and the work is still needing to be done. So one of the other things that happened is the United Way that serves Island County closed a few years back, and we didn't realize that we had been assigned some of the zip codes. So that's one of the conversations that we are going to be having in the next year or so, is saying, what does that support look like? How can we serve some of those families while still making sure that we're serving our Snohomish County families well? We want to continue to focus on families with children ages birth to 8 living at or below the ALICE threshold. And that's the primary target, that we certainly families with children at any income level, wanting to make sure once again that children get a strong start and are able to grow up and stay and contribute and be wonderful neighbors, partners, workers in our community. Sometimes it's important to put boundaries, especially as a small organization, over things that we do not do, which is United Way has very strict rules on how we support our communities, and many of our neighboring counties have their own United Way. So while we may partner with them, we're not going to provide programming in other counties. We are not an environmental or arts organization, though there may be crossover where relating to how children learn and grow. And we have a rule that we do not fund individuals. This is not a GoFundMe. It's not a Kickstarter. It's not a, while we may create funds that help with things like rental assistance or helping families meet needs, that those are really through our partners and we don't give out individual dollars. There's a lot here, and I'm happy to say this is the goal chart that our team has been working on for, so we're on a fiscal year. Our year goes from July 1 to June 30, so we're just about halfway through, and we have finished a little over half of these goals, which feels really amazing. And you'll see there's 4 areas that we've been focusing on. Re-engaging our community, building a strong or stable organization, making sure that our programs are healthy, as are our relationships with our other nonprofit organizations, and really clarifying that future vision. So engaged community, we recruited 6 amazing new board members in the fall, and we're going to talk about that a little bit more, that we're going to have another opening for folks who are interested in joining the board early next year. We're going to talk, we've been relaunching some of our committee work, and we're working on raising money because there's no money, no mission, right? Like, we need to ensure that we have the funds to hold to our commitments. The strong organization, the building, we've had it since 2007. It's wonderful. We have been able to offer, our first floor is occupied by the YMCA, and it's been wonderful to have them in the building and to have that partnership. And it's a lot of space for an organization that is essentially about 4 or 5 people at this point, right? When we moved in, it was about 30 people. And as you all know, and this meeting is an example of, the way we work has changed. And so really saying, how can we release this asset back into the community in a way that frees up additional revenue to support the organization and to support the initiatives and programs that we are committing to. We're doing a database conversion. We're in audit season. And we are in the process of hopefully hiring a permanent CEO. So those are all in process. We have hired our director of programs, which is wonderful, very exciting. And she has hit the ground running and is doing an amazing work building relationships in support of some of the programs we're going to talk about in a few minutes. And then for future vision, we are, as we go into next year particularly, United Way Worldwide is rolling out new branding, a new assessment that will help us determine our future vision. And of course, next year is our 85th anniversary. And so really saying, how do we celebrate all the contributions from all of the wonderful people who have given their time, their voice, their efforts, and their money over the past 80 years, and recognize how much we have done together. So speaking of programs, once again, when originally, 2-3 years ago, we were in a place where everything had been said, we do core, and that is all we do. And so the organization had really divested out of a lot of those historic programs. And so when we said, okay, we can't do core. We can't do core the way it was envisioned or designed any longer. What do we do now? And so I really want to lift up the work of the team to say, to recognize the work that it's taken to listen to our community, to meet with partners, and to say, find a place where we can provide unique and needed support to the community. And we're going to talk about a couple of these, but it's been really exciting to see this really flesh out. And once again, the names have changed, but they're the same pillars that we've been working on for over 20 years. So youth opportunity. So for those of you with long memories, kids matter. Financial stability, families matter. Healthy community and community resiliency, we're really under that communities matter umbrella. So we're still very much focused in the same way. It just looks a little bit different. And once again, we have to right size for what we are able to do with a smaller staff and a smaller volunteer pool. I got to meet Dolly Parton, and it was like a professional and personal highlight. She is just as lovely in person and funny and charming as she is on screen. And she started the Dolly Parton Imagination Library because her dad, who was one of the smartest and most thoughtful individuals she had ever known, had never learned how to read and held a lot of shame about it. And so her goal was like, how can we make sure that every child has access to books, books that can help ignite that love of learning, that love of reading at a really young age, and making sure that cost is not a barrier, access is not a barrier. And so we have been very proud to partner with the Imagination Library of Washington to participate in this program. So the way the program works is that when a family signs up, so any child in Snohomish County is eligible from birth to their 5th birthday. And we work with the Dolly Parton Foundation to send the books directly to their home at no cost to the family. So once a month, they get a book and it's got their name on it, which we hear like kids just so love that they get mail. And can you remember when getting mail was fun and it wasn't just bills, right? Like so exciting. And we have had over 13,000 children who have registered in this program over the last year and a few months, and 11,000 of which are still active. And over 144,000 books have been mailed. And so it's been really exciting. I've gotten to be out in the community, especially over the summer at events, and hearing families talk about how much they love getting those books in the mail and that they have that time to sit together and read. It fills my heart with goodness. And there is not a family income level required. We take everyone regardless of where they are on the economic spectrum. So really just wanting to make sure that every child has that access. Now, one of the issues that we've seen with the program is it does require you to have a permanent address, which unfortunately does eliminate the eligibility for children who are in a shelter situation or are unhoused. And so we have been working with some wonderful community partners to do book drives and are working with other agencies who do provide services, shelter services and services to families who are in transitional spaces to make sure that while they might not be able to sign up for Dolly, that they still have that access to books. So big thank you to those groups who have worked with us to ensure that. Another new exciting program this year that is the Community Reinvestment Program. And so this is actually comes out of a grant from the Department of Commerce and is in some ways restitution for the communities that were hit hardest by the war on drugs. And the money is specifically targeted for foreign buy organizations who are out of the community who are serving Black, Indigenous, and Latina communities. And so we're one of 6 United Ways who are part of this grant. The others include King County, Pierce County, Yakima County, Spokane County, and Grant County, I believe, around Vancouver. And we are providing technical support, as well as we are able to help these groups draw down additional funds to support financial stability for, once again, Black, Indigenous, and Latina communities. And we just had our first 3 kind of sub-grants go through and are hopefully being funded any day now. And it's really exciting to be building these partnerships. These are groups that we might not have had historical partnerships with because they're so small and because they may not, in the days of like formal 3-year grant processes, even to do that work, you needed to have like a grant writer or someone who could wade through all of that paperwork. And so to be able to really kind of push all the red tape aside and go looking for the groups to say, you're doing great work, how can we support you, has been really rewarding. And I'm really excited to see our results in a few more months. We also have taken on administration for the Federal Emergency Food and Shelter Program. So these are dollars that the federal government awards to each county, but then the county has to do the work to draw down the funds to make sure that they are allocated correctly. And if anybody's ever worked with a federal grant before, there's a lot of red tape, there's a lot of bureaucracy, there's a lot of documentation that has to happen. And so while Snohomish County has accessed these funds in the past, it hasn't had a permanent home. It's moved between different organizations who've taken it for a year or two. And so we have really committed to, we're going to hold it and we're going to make sure that those processes get done so that organizations in our community can access that money for critical services that include food and shelter. So over the 4 phases, which are kind of annual awards, but kind of not, that we've been working with, that's meant over $2 million from the federal government that is being put out into the local community. And I think that's really important. We've been talking with both Skagit and Island County, and neither of them have accessed that money for several years, and it's a use it or lose it situation. So while we may not be raising that new money, that money exists, and our ability to draw it down and get it out into the community is a really important role, and we're very proud of it. We're also trying partnership in a different way. We've created a partnership with Best Dental Help, which is an amazing organization doing really critical work that a lot of people have never heard of. And our role is less of a funding role and more of a promotion role, that we want people to know about this work and know about this organization and have ways to connect with it and support it. So Best Dental Help is a mobile dental clinic, and they visit our local elementary schools, especially ones with high rates of free and reduced lunch. And they provide dental education, and they hand them permission slips, and they come back a week later with their mobile dental van, and they will visit every child who returned a permission slip, regardless of whether or not they have insurance, regardless of whether or not they can pay, and do cleanings, checkup, and address severe issues, as well as place sealants. So in Snohomish County during the last school year, they did 900 cleanings, over 1,000 fluoride treatments. They placed 2,600 sealants on molars. And it's important to note that sometimes even if kids have dental insurance, they'll cover sealants, but not for baby teeth, right? Or not for teeth that are non-permanent. And what this group has seen is that sometimes the damage is so bad in baby teeth that it actually rots the adult teeth underneath. And all around 4,000 students received that crucial education. And so we have been just so proud to work with them and just promote the amazing work that they are doing. We also have a long-standing partnership with the Snohomish Island County Labor Council, which includes the Letter Carriers Food Drive, an annual purchase of school supplies, trade up education days for high schoolers who might be interested in going into the trades. And so we recognize that so much of our workforce in Snohomish County is unionized, and we are grateful for this partnership and the ability to work together to build a stronger community. And coming soon, what's old is new again. We are looking at relaunching the Varsity Letter in Community Service. I've got a high schooler right now who needs to do 60 hours. And so really seeing that 145 hours that's required to earn the Varsity Letter is important. And it's important that we incentivize our youngest folks to get involved with their community and help them feel like they have power. They have power and the ability to make a difference. And so we are piloting it with a small group in high schools. We had this program. We really had to wind it down during COVID, and we're excited to bring it back. And so look for more information coming soon. Some of you might recognize, I had to laugh when I saw this photo that Brittany pulled up of lobby day. So one of the things our United Way has always done well is to be an advocate for the community, to really listen to what people are telling us and then take those words and that sentiment and talk to our elected officials about it. So thank you, Yvonne, for being here. And so we are relaunching our advocacy committee to really listen to the community and help guide our stance on important bills locally and at the state legislature. We are going to participate in Lobby Day once again, and we will be inviting our community to join us. There is no previous experience necessary. We will help train and tell you what to talk about and prepare you with talking points on the way down. The date is to be determined, but please let us know if you're interested. And we are going to be working together to bring organizations and community partners together to elevate these voices. Often we'll hear that our fellow nonprofits are either nervous about doing advocacy or they're worried. There are some federal limits. They're actually really, really high and hard to hit, but there's a lot of nervousness around what we are and are not allowed to do. And it's something that, you know, especially direct services, they're like, we are serving the community and we're busy every day. How do we step out of that and do this work? And so this is a place where we feel that we are uniquely qualified to pick this torch back up and continue this work. We love our volunteers, and we are opening up more spaces for volunteers to get involved with us again. As I noted, we have brought on a wonderful class of new board volunteers, and we'll be looking for some new ones in kind of probably January, February. We're still finalizing that timeframe. It doesn't require that you have a master's degree. What it requires is that you are connected with your community and care about improving lives. And so that application will be open shortly. You can also join one of our committees if you're not quite ready for that level of commitment. We have 3 active committees that are open to members of the community who, once again, all is required is that you are willing to show up and share what expertise you have. And if you, your workplace, your house of worship, your community group wants to host a book drive or a drive in support of our friends at Best Dental Help, please let us know. We'd be happy to talk with you about what that partnership could look like. We're also building more engagement opportunities for small and locally owned businesses. For groups that have worked with United Way in the past, we really focused on like what are the top 100 workplaces and large multinational companies. And one of the shifts we've seen is we really need to focus on organizations that are really committed to being here and worried about the local community. And so we're really thinking differently about our sponsorship packages and ways to engage small businesses that can make a difference, either supporting directly programs like Dolly Parton or Best Dental Help, or we're building a package for next year, our 85th anniversary. We're going to have some fun things going on, and we'd love to have your support for that. And Brittany can work with you to find a solution that is right for your company. And we still do workplace campaigns. They're coming back, and we've had some really fun things happening, especially over the last week or two. And it's more than just collecting funds. It's about building a community within your workplace, learning, sharing, and advocating for your neighbors, for each other, and for our community. Adopting a corporate social responsibility strategy helps a business build closer relationships with their employees and with the community, and can help drive customers to choose you over a competitor. So Elizabeth's email is in there. She's our resource development director. If you want to contact her, she'd be happy to talk with you about what that might look like. So the heart of this is that we've been on a change journey, and we are so optimistic about the future. I'm really excited about where we've been going. We've really done some hard work of saying, like, what is our role here? Do we still have a role here? And I think the answer is yes. Yes, we have a role here. And we're excited that we're reaching back out to our community and finding ways for you to help us write that next chapter.